Hello, uplifters. We are here today with our very first Alien Worlds Syndicates candidate interview with Recourier from Metaphors. Yay! Thank you for joining. How are you doing today?
Doing good.
So good to see you.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I think a lot of people know your story and history because you've been on the Uplifters channel a lot. But for anyone new who's listening who might be voting, why don't you give us a little history of, how you came to play Alien Worlds and what you do in the community?
Well, Alien Worlds, I had bought on their drops on the initial drop, so I've been in Alien Worlds since really the beginning, and I had mined on the first day that mining was open. So I was one of the first, I don't know, handful of people. I went live at like noon or something, and I was waiting and went in and hit the mine right at noon. So yeah, I've been kind of into the Alien Worlds thing since the beginning, um, and been playing a long time, and have been involved with that for a long time. And then had originally at that time I was on the Crypto Monkeys team, and Crypto Monkeys had made a presence on Nary, and I was going to be a candidate then for Crypto Monkeys team along with some of the other guys. Since then, I went off and made Metaphors, and have stayed, close with the Crypto Monkeys guys, but am not officially on the team anymore. But once the candidacy came back around, I was like, yeah, I'm still up for doing it, and so I'm in along with some of the Crypto Monkeys guys to try and be a candidate for Nary.
Awesome. Yeah, it really set the tone for Nary and how Nary would become. Sorry about the flashing screen. I'll try to fix that, but I think it's Halloween. But yeah, Nary really became a place for characters and creatures and lush nature and things like that. So it really is, I think, because of that really early lore that evolved in the community. So that's been super fun. People have been really excited to see all y'all come out and make Nary what it's gonna become. So what are you thinking? Like, do you have any thoughts about what you would do if elected?
So I really like the idea of the satellites and
Oh,
giving smaller communities the ability to be a part of the DAO framework, because early on, Crypto Monkeys had a decent sized community, and then Anders had the Cabal, and then I think Magor was the dwarf something. Uh,
oh,
but pretty much early on, there were 6 planets, and some decent sized communities kind of laid claim to those planets pretty fast, and then like the if you weren't one of those 6 communities, there wasn't much of a place for you, or you had to find a place within them or whatever. And it's not bad to join new communities and get involved, but it does um, end up being a little exclusive. And I
mm,
really kind of like the idea of the satellites, in that you don't have to be a big enough community to take over a whole planet, or run for planetary and win planetary council, because a lot of
mm,
these elections are going to be based on how big of a community you have, and from that draw what you
mm.
get. So the idea of allowing and empowering smaller communities to still be a part of it, I think is a pretty cool idea. So um, I think that I'm going to have a lot of focus on bringing um, value to those smaller communities that decide to set up satellites in Nary, and trying to
Oh,
connect
okay.
smaller communities together in the space.
Wow, that's great. So there was a lot in there to unpack, but So this exclusivity you talk about, you're seeing that emerge already in week 1 of campaigning, huh?
Well, that's how it was. For those that,
All
that
along.
weren't around initially, the campaigning and all of that stuff launched, and then kind of you could stake your tokens and become a candidate. And I had made the candidate page and everything, and then they said, well, we're not quite ready to actually do this, so we're gonna pack it away for a little while. That happened, uh, I don't know, mid 2021 or something like that.
Yeah, I think
So
so, something like that, yeah.
I had I already had a candidate. I had already been a candidate since that time. And at that time, there was no discussion of satellites or anything like that.
Mhm,
Um, but people had been, hoarding the planetary tokens because they knew that they were going to have to vote for a candidate. So
mm,
people had tons and tons and tons of tokens, and this was before the Binance stuff and before the listing on Binance and any of that.
all the
So
craziness.
the token value was not what it is now. And then the listing on Binance happened and the token value skyrocketed. So then everybody rushed to like unstake those planetary tokens, because at that time there wasn't really any other use for TLM. It was that and the shining. And
Yeah.
so then once that token value went up so much, then nobody wanted to use it for shining because the cost for shining was enormous at that point. And then um, you know the candidacy stuff had been put on hold, so a lot of people went in and you know traded those tokens to get something else, wax or whatever. And so then later on there came Planet Binance, and then the Binance missions, and a lot of TLM got locked up over there, and so on and so forth. But in that early on stage, before there was a Binance listing, before there was Planet Binance, before there was really much of anything to do, it was just a race to get as many TLM tokens as you could, so that you could stack your chances for the candidacy. And yeah, at that time there were big groups that had laid claim to each planet, and there was not a lot of room to get in without an enormous effort and an enormous kind of outlay of TLM or wax or whatever.
Mm.
So
Well,
now with the reboot,
you can
I like the satellites because I like the idea of
mm,
these smaller communities being able to have a space and build.
mm, mhm. Well, what I'm curious what you see as the difference between, like, how you envision like, we don't know yet, obviously, we haven't even had the first election, but, um, like, how do you envision that some of those, people elected who might have those communities that have been around a long time or a lot of trillium or, voting power, or how that all equates. You get a little more voting power in some ways, I guess. But how do you see those and the worker proposal systems, or I guess maybe I don't know what they're calling it, proposal systems, being different from the satellite? Like, do you think that communities won't have a chance to get their projects funded by the or supported, I guess, one way or another by the, custodians because they're gonna focus on their own projects, whereas you would have more control over a satellite? Or how do you see it like a little planet that you control? Is that what the satellites are to you, or how do you see them different?
I guess so. I mean, a lot of it, it's not 100% clear because there's a lot of room for them to become whatever people decide to make them. So my ideas on what it'll be, and other people's ideas on what it'll be, none of us are really 100% sure. And so I'm kind of going into it with hopes more than plans that it creates a spot to do community building, to also get involved in a larger metaverse project. And different metaverse projects are doing different kind of ways of doing that. Some I've seen being more successful, some not very successful.
Mm.
And so this, I think, gives that opportunity for many more smaller groups, as opposed to just a handful of very large groups, and then you having to figure out which one of those large groups you fit in. Um, there may be a community of just a couple hundred people that like one particular art project or something on wax that can make a little mini community and can make mini games. There was a lot of mention
Mm.
of mini games and different things like that with the satellites. So I'm really interested to see
Mm.
how that plays out, and if there is an opportunity, um, potentially, let's say there's a bunch of satellites in the Neri planet. Maybe some of those different satellite communities start connecting with each other and building each other's communities, and that might be an opportunity to expose people to new projects and new communities that they might not have been exposed to otherwise.
Yeah, it sounds like it's like the support from the planet is part the trillium that would support a project to occur, but also the exposure to other players and other communities to do
Yeah,
collaborations and become aware of each other and grow. So, and you mentioned games. I've heard a lot of people mentioning that. It sounds like that might be one of the community favorites for use of Trillium. Have you been hearing that too since you mentioned it?
well, that was in, I think it was the technical blueprint. It had mentioned something about that. I don't remember exactly which document I read it in, but it said things like mini games and different stuff like that. So
Yeah,
uh,
great.
I think I think there's opportunity there. I suspect that every satellite group is going to kind of have its own vision and figure out how to build on that vision. Um, my understanding from reading the papers is that each one of those DAOs will have an opportunity to launch a DAO token, and then decide how that token is going to be distributed. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how it all plays out, because I suspect each of the different planets that have a different council on it are going to move those satellites in the direction that makes sense for them as a council. And then I think the live voting is pretty interesting. It's not like you're voted in and then you're in for a term. You can lose your spot very quickly, and
It's a week, right? Is that what they said? A
something
week?
like that. Yeah.
Go
Um,
fast.
so it's definitely interesting. I think it's going to be, there's probably on each planet there's going to be one or two that have like some tremendous voting power that are on a whole nother level, that don't have to worry about getting voted out. And then those fourth and fifth spots, there might be a lot of movement in those, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Some people have been collecting Trillium for years now, and other people are going in and buying it up to get that power, and other people are just they're using what they've mined. So it's pretty interesting. You see some voters that have 20-30 trillium worth of voting power, and they do the just a couple day stake.
Mhm.
And then you have people that have hundreds of thousands of trillium that have put it on the 90-day stake, that have millions of voting power. And
Yeah.
it's definitely a there's it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. It'll be interesting to see. I know there's some people that are running on every planet, and
Mhm.
are kind of splitting up their voting power and figuring out how to do that. And you know I think it's going to take a couple weeks or months for it to settle into what the long term um, look and feel of it'll be, and then planets will start to make their own decisions and stuff. So it really is going to be, at first um, getting your communities around you to get you into those top five, and then doing a good enough job to stay up there in those top.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
should be
Well,
interesting.
I'll tell you, as a person who's in this game all day and night, it's nice to talk to someone who says the same words that I'm saying and they can understand what I'm saying. Are you finding it challenging to talk to people who don't know about the game, about what you're doing or how you play? Like, what do you say to people who don't know about Alien Worlds yet?
I don't. I mean, within my spheres of people that I know on Wax, most of them know about Alien Worlds, and Metaforce has had mining land on Alien Worlds, and um, has had a presence. We have Galaxy Jumper, which is the Alien Worlds comic book, and so most of the people that I'm dealing with day to day, in the wax space have an awareness of what Alien Worlds is. Their questions deal primarily with, how is this governance stuff going to work? And for a lot of that, I don't have a really good answer because it's a brand new system, and
Yeah.
we don't really know how it's going to work yet.
So you live in the metaverse now. You're fully comfortable. Everyone around you is you're right at home.
Yeah, I mean,
You've been here a while.
yeah, I've been here a while. I've been in wax since, you know, just all it was little projects.
So you mentioned Galaxy Jumper too, which is a super exciting project, and it was a collab with official Alien Worlds, right?
Yes.
So tell us about it.
So we did some just comic cover promotions for Alien Worlds, and then eventually we got a partnership, and we developed a comic book based on the Alien Worlds broader metaverse and lore. So we created a whole set of new characters, and they are on the ship called Galaxy Jumper, and it starts out, you know, with a little bit of backstory and how a couple of the crew members came over from Earth, and our first issue is out, and you can buy that and you can read it. And it's just about the crew kind of meeting up for the first time, and then they're going to go on and become a crew of people, and well, all different races, not just people. And then their main antagonist is a character called the Water Baron, and so there's a whole kind of lore to be fleshed out there. We've created the characters and we've created the first issue, and then we want to build on it from there. But building comic books is a long and expensive process, so we aren't able to bring them out once a month like the big companies are. So it takes us a lot longer cycle time, and obviously with the market the way it is, not a lot of people are buying much of anything. So but we're still building, and I'm hopeful that being more engaged in the Alien Worlds metaverse might allow us to engage more with people, more readers. Maybe somebody wants to be involved in writing or art or whatever. So Metaforce is definitely
Yeah.
a bit of a community project. It's yeah, I mean, we're not like um, blockchain brawlers or these really big games that
Right.
have a
You
big.
emerged.
Yeah.
You emerged from the community, which is and for people who don't know, you mentioned the mining event. And effectively, that's where if people select one of your lands in the play.alienworlds.io game, when they click mine and claim, and that makes a blockchain transaction, you can see that because it's on the blockchain.
Mhm.
And so you can give away your NFTs, which are amazing and people love them. And you've been like a leader in the space for a while. So everyone
Yeah.
loves your Metaforce NFTs, right?
So we have like our own kind of internal mini game because we have a presence in Alien Worlds. We have a presence in a number of other projects, and by interacting in Alien Worlds, it's by mining, and in other projects, it's other things. You get these tickets. We call them arcade tickets, and then you can build up those tickets and burn them for some of our token called CMX, our comics token, and then you can use that to buy comics. So if you come to our land, which is here in Neri 33.5, and you mine on that, after a few times, you're going to start collecting those tickets. You can turn those tickets into tokens, and then you can buy Galaxy Jumper with those tokens. So if you give yourself a little time, essentially it's a free to read, free to get involved.
Yeah.
So
Because you can start for free. You can mine without spending any money and get started, right? And those people, by the way, Danish, I put the link in the description, but he's been like on Twitter. I think he said 18 hours yesterday, helping people learn how to play, or if they're already playing, how to vote and stuff like that, like live on Twitter Spaces. So if anyone wants any help voting for you or mining on your land, they can.
yeah.
He might mention if you're on Cavion to vote for him too, but that's okay.
So yeah, it's we have a whole kind of, our whole sort of idea was connecting projects and connecting with projects and collaborating, and that's kind of the whole premise of the our whole project really is to connect with other projects. So that's
amazing.
another.
I could see people wanting to do a comic extension, right? Because
Yeah.
you have an official lore right there. So, like, let's say we wanted to do, let's say, a Planet Velas comic extension, right? And 1 week got together and collectively wrote that lore of like settling on Velas, and then like supported that project through the Trillium. That would be a possible use of a week.
Yeah. So I mean, we can help people publish. If people want to put forth a comic book or anything using a book reader type technology, we'll work with them, and if they want to do the art, we've got a couple projects where they're going to do the art, and we're going to put it together for them and issue it, and everybody can get their own schema or whatever in our collection, and it's a way for people who don't know how to go through the whole process and build a comic and set up a collection, all of that. They can do that through us, and we'll help them do that. Or if they want to, make their own collection, but they just want a little help with it, there's ways for us to get involved and help them with it.
That's awesome. I think everyone's going to want one. I mean, literally everyone I can think of is going to want one if they know. You know what I mean? Especially if they can interact with your characters. That would be like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also, like, you have, I know, amazing land. I think it's in Genesis in the Uplift, right?
Yeah, we have I have a pretty big Metaforce has a pretty big build there. And then one of my side projects called Up on Comics is got a soccer stadium build there. And yeah, we spent a lot of time building stuff out there.
That, you see, that to me is like the perfect backdrop. Like if I was going to go do a comic right away, I'd go grab my builds from there, use some of that imagery, make some videos to promote it, and then have that tie in with it. I just think like the Uplift is like Hollywood waiting for us to use it, right? Because it's so gorgeous. So maybe that could be like a whole line of comics, the Uplift. Uplift has a proposal system too. So I'm just thinking here, Corey. But I hope he doesn't mind.
Yeah.
I don't think he minds, but he gave me access. It's okay. We're legit. It's all right. But
Yeah.
anyway, um, yeah. So that's so they'll. So how do people reach out to you at metaphorscomics.com? Is that the best way?
Yeah. I'm Recourier everywhere. So on Twitter, on Discord, on Telegram, just search for at Recourier. You can find me there. You can find me at metaphorscomics.com. We have our Twitter is Metaphors Comics. We do have a Telegram. We have a Discord. Our Discord is discord.metaphorscomics.com. So really, there's just tons of ways to find me or get a hold of me or get a hold of somebody on the team.
Great.
So
Sounds fun.
yeah,
Well, what else should I be asking you that I'm not asking you?
I don't know, honestly, because the governance and the satellites and everything that's with it is so open. I'm kind of open to figuring it out as we go. I would love to find a way to connect um, a satellite to my collection and to help other people connect satellites to their collections and um, build and work together. There was a big effort that went in with that with the Uplift, and then as everybody's aware, Uplift has had a couple speed bumps along the way, and is getting itself all sorted out now. But I think that's going to happen in Alien Worlds as well, and a lot of these other projects. A lot of stuff is getting, I don't know, I guess I'd call filtered out or whatever you want to call it with the markets the way they are. So
Yeah, sort of a balancing of sorts, right? So,
sort of. I mean,
yeah.
it's a tough time. There are projects that are going to no longer be profitable, and then people are going to close the project, and then there's going to be projects that are no longer profitable, but the project runners are going to keep trying to get through to the other side, and hopefully that means that the projects that do make it through the tough times have a little bit of longevity in them. So
Yeah, that'd be great because it seems like there's a lot of opportunity. It's just saying we're almost at 8 billion people on Earth. And it seems at least some of us think that maybe this game token stuff might be able to help get everyone what they need. What do you think?
yeah, I mean, it's interesting to watch both crypto and blockchain and the NFT spaces and the DeFi spaces, and all of these things go through their iterations, and each Bitcoin cycle, which really drives the whole market. Different parts of it, find corporations and larger projects find their foothold and find their way to get their spot in the space. So that certainly happened just with Bitcoin in general, and Ethereum and some of the other more majorly known tokens, and now there are these large companies that are getting involved in it, and large companies now are starting to take a look at GameFi and the NFT spaces and trying to figure out how they fit into it. That's going to take a couple years to mature, and we'll see what comes of it. There's always going to be, just like everything on the planet, there's big companies that do things, and there's mom and pop shops that do the same thing on a much more scale with a local group. There's Walmarts, and then there's corner stores, and that's the way I think all spaces are going to evolve. I think the big change with it is back in 2020, if you were on Wax, you got into everything. If it came out, you got involved. You wanted to be in everything because you could keep up with everything that was coming out. And then it got busier, and then it got busier, and then you started to have to make some choices. And so it's interesting to see how that all evolves, and what's going to fall away and what's going to stick. And then you saw, little companies like Token Head got acquired and is now part of the larger Funko machine, and that's going to happen to some other ones. And maybe a big NFT brand like Animoca comes in and gets in with some companies. I know Bitcoin Origins that went to Red Bull Rabbits. They've got a bigger entity kind of behind them. So it's really interesting to see how that all evolves and who's going to stay a little mom and pop shop and who's going to become part of these bigger projects, and
Yeah.
see how it all evolves.
It seems like there's room for everyone, though, whereas in the past, maybe there wasn't. Like one would mean the other couldn't exist. It seems like there's room for everyone because the communities around the projects, whether they're big or small, are what are really supporting and driving that project. So it seems like there's still room, whereas in the maybe terrestrial real estate space, it's a lot harder to do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's everything now is in its infancy. So it's all going to grow and evolve, and some stuff is going to stick, and some stuff's going to turn into something else. So
Yeah.
it's
Well, I feel lucky to be here right now,
yeah,
and, I hope we do a good job. I mean, we don't really have to, like, be elected to do something for the planet or the space, which is actually quite entertaining to me in a way, right? You can just kinda, like, go along with it and do what you want, whether you're elected or not, right? You can make, like, planetary NFTs or whatever, right? Like, but so it'll be fun to see what people do or don't do, whether they're elected or not, and how
yeah,
that all works out.
yeah.
But
It's it's there's definitely different type. There's some people that like kind of go all in on their one metaverse and go super deep and know every little nuance of it. And then there's people
mhm,
that are a little bit involved here and there. And with me running my own project and being involved in some of these different experiences, I have a good knowledge of, well, this project here is doing this and this is doing that, and this broad view. But some people that are like neck deep in alien worlds, every day, know so many of these small nuances that I might miss. And so working with those people that know all of that detail um, can be really extremely um, both exciting and
time consuming.
well, yeah, but there's a lot to learn, and there's a lot to understand. And as these planets grow and take on their own identities, and then satellites get born out of those, and those take on their own identities, it's you're never going to be able to follow everything, even in just alien worlds. Whereas before it was like, oh, it got hard to follow multiple projects, but you could be an expert in
Yeah.
alien worlds. Maybe a year from now, instead of you being an expert in alien worlds, you'll just be an expert on one of the planets, because
Mm,
one given planet is going to have so much going on that
right.
you can't keep track of everything. So
Corey's been talking about making little AI friends. We're gonna need the little AI friends that show up every day and like, "Good morning, Lisa. Recourier has a new event this week," and tell
well,
us,
yeah,
like, if we've ever interacted with the person or tweeted with them or been on a show together or something
yeah,
that would be cool, huh? Are you listening, Corey?
yeah. I need a AI virtual assistant. That would be great.
Everyone does. Yeah, he's into it. I think he's gonna make it happen one way or another.
Yeah.
So I'm rooting I'm cheering him on. We'll take it. Wouldn't that be cool? Oh my gosh, in the metaphors characters. So you could have your own metaphors character that is your AI friend. Oh my gosh.
There you
Okay, you
go.
guys need to chat next week. The sooner the better, guys.
Yeah.
Sam Altman, are you listening? So cool. Well, this is a super fun time, a super historic time, and I feel very lucky that you're my first interview that I'm doing on
Yes.
the
Thank you.
Uplifters
I'm
for
honored.
this
Thanks.
season. So, and I've been a fan ever since the beginning, and you're the real OG miner right there at the first minute.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That
let
was,
history note that.
it's kind of, it's really funny and interesting because of how the mining works out. You have a mining pool and then however many people mine it, So now with good, good equipment, you're lucky if you even get over one TLM mine. But there, when nobody was mining, like hundreds of TLM per mine with basic equipment
They
because
hate when we talk about that in the chats. I have some screenshots of that time too, and oh, they hate that.
yeah, my first mine was 900 TLM,
Oh my gosh.
and that it was a quick mine too. It was like a minute or something, a minute or two. It was just basic tool.
Oh,
It was whatever I had because nobody really understood how exactly the mining was going to work. So you threw your first one together and you just hit mine and you watched and it counted down for
yeah.
it was pretty short, and then the next one was like 400 and something, and then the next one was like 200 and something as people raced to get in that first hour. But yeah, I think the first
Wow.
hour I mined couple thousand TLM.
And that the NFTs were dropping in the game at that time, right?
Yeah.
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 And we were still getting notifications from the Atomic API in the game to tell us like, oh, you got this
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
fancy tool or whatever, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a different setup. I definitely got a couple decent drops because there weren't a ton of players right up front. It wasn't
Yeah.
it wasn't until after Binance, and then a lot more people got involved. Some people you know are script players instead of clickers, but
Developers, we call them, right?
yeah, so they all
Resilience testing developers. Yeah.
so it's just a whole different space now. But yeah, I've done I have back when it was affordable, I did a bunch of shining. I've got some really low mint shined up characters. I've got you know I went after the banana miners when the crypto monkeys
Oh, yeah. Oh my
came out.
gosh.
So I've got shined
Exciting.
banana miners
We
and
still can't get his name right. Anytime anyone mentions him, they call him Banano. So it's like, is it
Pantano,
Bantano? Is it Banana? Like every time it's
Pantano or
hysterical.
Mantano.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody
Yeah.
misses the T in there.
Yeah, because of the card. Yeah. But yeah, that was a super fun time. People freaked out. Like still people freak on the crypto monkeys, but they're like
Yeah,
that was and the new ones coming out all the time. And then if you had it, you would get one. Oh my God, it was so fun. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I get my drops from time to time of mine. I've got a pretty good collection, but the only people that have a full collection really are the founders because it's so hard to get the legendaries.
Well,
So
hey, as long as they put him in virtual reality and augmented reality, I'm okay with that because
yeah,
I'm expecting to wear glasses and see monkeys through the trees in the future. And I always use that as my example. I want to turn on crypto monkeys, developers listen. And when I see the tree, have my cards swinging through the trees, right? Basically. And new cards that I can claim, like that would be fun too. And then show my friends who are claiming at the same time and then like click to add AI friend to that monkey and then train it on whatever I want. See where I'm going with it? So I always crypto monkeys inspired me toward that augmented reality vision. So hopefully someday we'll get that for all our characters.
yeah, that would be awesome.
So I'm gonna look forward to hanging out with you guys on Nary. You know, I visit daily in my imagination and my social media to all the planets and act a fool a bit. But you know what? If it helps 8 billion people in any way or any fraction of those, I'll act a fool if I need to. So, so I'll be visiting Nary and checking you out. Meanwhile, on a much more serious note, though, I'm sure we'll want to work on comics and fun things together in the future.
Yeah, definitely.
And we'll reach out. Yeah, and Galaxy Jumper, definitely got to check that out. That sounds like some super important lore if we want to be writing lore extensions, you know, to say like, hey, you know, I have a coffee shop, right? At least it's coffee shop in Telegram. And so if you show up, you know, and build a coffee shop, like I'd want to tie it in with the lore to make it official. And, you know, like I might make it light or fun, but it still like ties into the official lore that way. So,
Yeah.
so we'll
Well,
definitely check that out.
and anyone who's interested, you can go right to metaphorcomics.com, and the drops are on there for our token CMX, which you can get on whichever decks you use, whether it's Taco Swap or Alcor or DeFi Box. There's a CMX for Wax on all three, and you can go pick it up and buy those, or you can go right to our collection page on Nifty Blocks, and the drops are there too. So,
And then get the comics with those.
yep, just
Cool.
go get some
Oh,
CMX,
fun.
go get the comics, and then you can also earn it by mining on our land. So
And
lots of
play
ways.
for it. Good. Love that. Love the play option. A lot of people around the world, I'm sure, appreciate that. So cool.
Yeah, all of our CMX is all given out freely. We don't sell it. We've never sold it. You can get
Awesome.
it by interacting with us in our arcade, or by we have a buyback program where we use our token to buy back some of our extra cards. So if you go to Nifty Blocks, there's buybacks there.
Oh, wow.
And then we give it out in our LPs, and then you can go to WaxDAO and you can stake CMX to make CNMX. So it's all given out for free, and so
That's amazing. See, if people realize this, I think they would play more, right? Because you're basically demonstrating all these different play mechanics, right? Which
yeah,
maybe people, if they're not familiar, don't understand the subtleties, but it's different scenarios, right? Of how you can interact with tokens and how you can play, like, in other words, click in certain places and areas in order to get tokens and then use them to play other games and get other things. And some of those, I think that, you know, someone was on the Wax Twitter space the other day, said there's a fiat off ramp. And I thought, oh, what a great term, right? So, yeah, it's just like you go buy a Monopoly game at Target or whatever, right? You know, it's like, yeah, sometimes I'm going to have a fiat off ramp. I prefer, you know, like a play on ramp and a fiat off ramp.
yeah.
But we'll see, you know, we'll see how it all turns out in the future. There might be a lot of models.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And it's, a lot of people will take the game tokens and buy what they can with the game tokens, and then maybe they'll sell that on a secondary market or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's
You know, JR was telling us in his interview on the Uplifters recently, he played his way up to his lands. Like he had some token he'd gotten a while ago, a little bit like, you know, monthly or whatever. But then when he played, he just started with that little tiny bit and played his entire way up to getting to the largest landowner in Alien Worlds. And I was like, "Ah, see, people keep telling me it works well to play. So I NFA, but not financial advice, but there's something about it, you know, that kind of works.
yeah. Well, you got to be really willing to grind it out, and then once you get enough momentum, yeah, you can keep going. So I got my lands from the drop, which I'm very happy that I bought what I did in the drop, but I'm also kicking myself that I didn't buy more because they were very inexpensive if you had any idea they were going to become what they are now. So
I remember hearing on the Crown Call about it and Dwayne saying, "Oh, I think I'm going to get some." And it was like, "Oh, good, you go. We'll cheer you on," you know. And it was like, "Oh."
Yeah.
but it's okay. It worked out.
I remember I was in my kitchen cooking something or whatever, and my wife and one of her friends were here, and I was like, "Oh, I gotta go check on this drop, whatever," and they were like, "Oh, your NFT stuff," and I went and I got them, and I got, because they did the reverse auction, and I got 3 at the price that felt good, and then I was like, I think I want to go get some more. And then the next one, they like sold out literally like the next step down. um, but yeah, those have turned into really really highly valued assets by the community. So
Yeah, and that people have been able to do events on them this whole time, right?
yeah,
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 that's amazing.
I
It's
do.
really proof
So
of concept of, like, game on ga people are like, "Oh, we're waiting for game on game," and it's like, "Wait, what do you mean? Here it is, right here." I mean, "Oh, you want it more complicated? Okay, we can work on that," but, like, at least, count your blessings, it's straightforward.
yeah, well, a lot of people, they use the term layer one, layer two, and Alien Worlds is in a position where it can function as a layer one protocol or metaverse or whatever, and then additional mini games or experiences or whatever can be built on top of it, which is, I think, a big part of what's happening, and the DAOs are going to be an accelerator to that. So
Mm. Yeah, I like that word accelerator because it takes what creators are doing conceptually and empowers them, right? Instead of trying to
yeah,
control them and just sort of empowers everyone who wants to create or develop or be social, right? All the categories, right? It supports that without controlling it, right? Which
yeah,
it sounds like from everything I hear, the Federation wants to decentralize the game. Alien World's like Bitcoin kind of, and let it out to the wild. And so, it feels like a lot of pressure, but the sooner we prove we can, as a community, govern it and manage those
mhm.
extraordinary resources, the sooner it might happen, right? But you could see things possibly delaying that depending on what happens, right? Bless you.
Excuse me.
But I don't know. We'll see. What do you think? Can we do it?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think once you give individuals the opportunity to build their own sub communities on top of the larger community, um, that's going to happen. The problem is um, making sure you don't have too much friction there. Allowing and empowering creators to be creative rather than making it difficult for them to get there. And
Mm,
platforms that do that the best, that empower smaller groups and smaller creators to work together and bring their vision out, are going to be successful, because they're giving people the tools that they need and the space that they need to make things, stuff, adventures, experiences, whatever. So
Well, that's a good point because it's not always about immersive games. I mean, maybe at some point in the future, it'll all be like in a virtual reality, but maybe not, right? And
right,
right now, it is about adventures and experiences and things like ways that engage people in our imaginations and our social platforms. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like a RPG fighting game or something, right?
no, no, definitely not, because there are millions of people that enjoy those games, right? That enjoy being completely immersed and take them to a different world. But there's also millions of people that just enjoy idle games, just a little thing they can play, a couple minutes at a time when they're in a waiting room, or they just want to kill time, take their mind off of something. And so having space for that to happen in whatever way, people are going to try out different things, and then people will gravitate towards what it is that they like the most. And so as long as what you're doing is compelling to some kind of group of people, um, you're gonna do all right. Um,
Yeah. There's a lot of room there, right? A lot of
yeah,
people with a lot of the communities is really fundamental. I think people forget that sometimes, but that's really what's emerged. I mean, early on, Good Vibes Mining got that with doing the community events and scale and having a different one every week. And JR's Lands, we've been doing and somewhat of the same model with the weekly events and following what everyone else has done, and carrying that on to share with the community of the week and so forth. Like it's really a lot more about that than about like an immersive experience. I mean, we'll have to see what comes in the future, but hopefully it'll be those
yeah,
communities, characters, creation stories that evolve. But you really hit on something talking about that because I think it's going to be interesting to see if any of the syndicates choose other than communities in terms of their support, right? Like,
yeah.
like what are the other options? I don't know, but like, that'll what's gonna happen if that happens.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if some groups try to go after larger names or corporations, or say, hey, we've got to go get Nike or Reebok or whomever to be involved in this, and somebody's going to try that. Whether or not they're successful, who knows?
Well, maybe they'll think to empower the communities through maybe they'll do contests or, say, hey, community, what do you want to do an event with us or something that's really organic, maybe, or maybe they'll do experiments that introduce new opportunities too. So
Yeah,
if it's supporting the communities, it continues that organic growth either way, right?
yeah,
Like,
for
I
sure.
guess bringing in resources by definition isn't necessarily going to cause issues unless it's somehow taking away. But if it's like additive and supportive, it seems like it would grow more rapidly, working together. I mean, that's the
Yeah,
theme of collaboration, right?
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's going to be. I've had the opportunity to watch other metaverses, um, how they've grown and how they've reached out, and some have gone a more corporate route, and some have gone a more community or small community route. And
Mm.
they're all taking their different paths. So yeah, the future is really wide open, and there's going to be some very different routes that people take to success. So um, yeah, I think the
Well,
biggest the
it's going
biggest
to be fun.
takeaway is just go out there and see what's out there, and you'll find the thing that fits you. So
Yeah, great suggestion. Well, it's going to be super fun playing this game with you,
yeah,
and I look forward to seeing how it all turns out. And happy Halloween on this historic day in 2022.
for sure.
And
Thanks so much, and
have a
thanks for
great
having me.
week. Yeah,
Yeah.
great week of campaigning. So,
All right. Awesome.
all right, we'll see you out there in the metaverse.
Have a good one.